Hello everyone and welcome back. Tinubu is doing exactly what he promised Nigerians. We remember that Tinubu promised us that he is going to continue where Buhari stopped. Even Tinubu is doing more than Buhari. Because we remember during Buhari time, Buhari was giving appointment to the Northerners, not just one tribe in the North, right? But here in the South, Tinubu is not just Southernising his administration, but Yorubizing his administration. Tinubu is giving appointment not just because those people qualified to have that position, but he just compensating people based on how those people helped him during the election. And also, I have noticed in this Tinubu government, whenever anyone come out to criticize this Tinubu government, we Nigerians will even start attacking the person like, why are you coming out right now to talk? What happened during Buhari time? Why you did not say anything? But thank God that I have seen one or two videos where Senator Ndume criticized Buhari. So him coming out to talk about this Tinubu government, like where Tinubu is not doing well, I don't think the man is doing something bad. And this is the reason why opposition parties are not functioning here in Nigeria. Because when someone come out to talk like against this Tinubu government, it's we Nigerians will start attacking the person, even defending Tinubu, knowing fully well that we are really suffering in this Tinubu government. So my people, in this interview, Senator Ali Ndume said a lot of things that are going wrong in this Tinubu government. And there's something he said that instead of Tinubu's dogs to look into what he is saying right now, whether it is true or not, rather they will start attacking him. Like this Tinubu spokespersons, they are something else, honestly. They just want to silence everyone. Like no one has right to criticize this Tinubu government. And we said we are practicing democracy. Like Tinubu should allow democracy to breathe. So my people, let me allow you guys to listen to what Senator Ali Ndume have to say concerning this Tinubu government when it comes to rule of law, insecurity, as well as welfare of Nigerians. But before then, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Share the video, give it a like, and also leave your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for doing so.
The thorn that's been piercing the gut of the political leadership in Nigeria, a rebel who has resolutely refused to toe the party line, a relentless campaigner who's become insistently vocal in his opposition to what he says are the excesses and illegalities of government. And once again, he's warning that Nigeria is standing on a precipice and that the cracks are now turning into fissures, with 3 budgets running concurrently, huge government borrowing, often without the approval of the National Assembly, and what he says are gross infractions on the federal character provisions of the Nigerian constitution, with more than 70% of President Tinubu's appointees coming from just one region, the Southwest. In the midst of all this, he says security is being ignored, with the horror of the killing of the Uromi 16 haunting Edo State, and now dozens more dead in a wave of violence in Plateau State, and with his home state of Borno witnessing escalating militant attacks and what appears to be a resurgence of Boko Haram and ISWAP. He's demanding that the government take much firmer control. But the administration has consistently accused him of spreading false information, saying he's provided no evidence to support his allegations, and he appears to be more interested in creating mischief than in supporting his party's president in building a better Nigeria. But he's typically scoffed at their suggestion. So what difference is his latest somber message likely to make, beyond creating more friction and disharmony with the government, his APC party, and his colleagues at the National Assembly? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the lawmaker they call Nigeria's unofficial one-man oversight mission, Senator Ali Ndume, the APC senator representing Borno South. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles.
And welcome home, because I know you traveled. So
and I made it because of you, as usual.
Well, I'm very glad that you did, because I would have been very worried if you didn't. So I'm glad you're here. Let's start with what you've described as a very big infraction on the federal character constitutional provisions of this country. You say that more than 70% of the president's appointees are from his southwest region, and that he's effectively skewed his appointments in violation of the principle of federal character. Tell us more.
Well, you have said it all. I don't think I have anything more to add than to say the figures are there. Somebody, the figures are there. You can look at the figures. I sent you one. I sent you figures. It's not that I'm just making accusations. And it's not that I'm saying, well, the president has no right to do that kind of thing. But there's a constitutional provision. Section 14.3 of the Constitution is very, very clear. When you look at it vis-a-vis the appointments made so far, and they are political appointments, if you are appointments that are professional, so to say, like you can't appoint somebody who is not a soldier to become the chief of army staff, or you can't appoint somebody that is not a police to be the IG of police. And you can't appoint such persons once they don't get to, they are not qualified. But then, when you come to look at political appointments, the Constitution is very clear. And it's because to avoid such infractions that the Constitution Section 14.3 clearly states that appointments, especially political appointments, should reflect the federal character. And that is not the case here. And all I'm saying is to call the attention of Mr. President to such infractions so that it can be corrected. Otherwise, these things can boomerang at a certain period of time. It's not. And I know, as you rightly said, people look at me as somebody that is critical of the government. I have the right to do that in the first place. And in fact, that's why I'm in the National Assembly in the first place. Collectively, we are supposed to oversight the acts of Mr. President and point out some of these irregularities. Absolutely. That is what we swore to do. It's not personal. I think I have better personal relationship with most of these people that are talking about Tinubu. And I can say in the North, if you count, not up to 5 people that have close relationship with Mr. President, Ndume is one of them. But that does not stop me from speaking the truth, and I have obligation to do that, especially when all of us know that at the end of it all, each one of us will stand before God, and God will ask him to account for what he is responsible for. You understand? And that's why I'm saying this. And besides, we are all in this government. What will we tell our people? When you have these figures out, it's already viral, it's already in circulation. But you know what? From now, after this interview, those attack dogs or MAGA dogs will start attacking Ndume, not the message. And that's why we always get it right. It is not about Ndume or me being a senator. As a Nigerian, I have the right to voice out all these things. Not only that, I have the right to even protest. I have the right. That is guaranteed by the Constitution. But from tomorrow, those so-called Tinubu boys or people will start attacking Ndume. Oh, he's a frustrated person.
But I mean, the facts are there, though, aren't they?
Yeah, the facts are there. These are the facts. I brought it here so that you can see it. I send it to you. These are facts. And I'm not the one that created it. These are facts extracted from what is going on there.
But is it the generality of his appointments, or is it the more sort of juicier jobs?
No. It's not about juicier jobs. It's about spread. It's about equity. It's about justice. You understand? And look, the coming of Mr. President is based on justice, equity, and fairness. And it is expected that he will continue in that direction to ensure fairness.
You mean because he came from the South?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is one. But he swore as a president to be fair, equitable, and justful. That is what the president swore to be. But that is not what is being reflected in the events, whether he knows it or he doesn't know. That's why I called on his attention to look at these things so that he can do something about it. That is the issue. And now I'm also begging or calling those attack dogs out there to please address the issues.
Yeah, rather than Senator Ndume.
Rather than Senator Ndume, address the message. Because I know now those attack dogs who cannot, I repeat, defend the president when the chips are down. Why I'm saying chips are down, most of them, go and check them. I did my research too. I will come up with the figures. Almost 60 or 70% of them are half Nigerians. You know why? I accuse you of one time of being half.
Don't even go there. you know what I mean? Do not go there.
Okay,
please.
I will not go there because of
please.
you. But it's true, most of the appointees, you check around, I'll come up with the figures. Most of them are people that have double citizenship.
I mean dual citizens.
Dual citizenship.
Right. Well, it's not illegal to be a dual.
I'm not saying it's illegal,
right.
but all I'm saying is those type of people cannot give the country 100% because they are not 100% Nigerians
well,
anyway.
I disagree with you.
Okay.
On that score. I mean, any other thing.
Because you are one of them anyway.
I told you not to go there. Now you've gone there.
Okay.
But the point is that, no. I mean, I think the real issue here is whether there is an infraction
there is
on the federal character constitutional provisions of this country. And you have provided evidence that seems to support that fact. But let me ask you something else, because you are a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You're a lawmaker. And part of what is involved in being a lawmaker is making just and equitable laws. It's not just a law, because I mean, if you look at it from a different perspective, people have a right to oppose a law that is not just, if it is shown not to be just. I mean, should it really matter where someone comes from as long as they are capable and competent in the job that they are chosen to do?
No, not at all. Not at all. In fact, I stood in support of that. I support the president getting, even if it is an expatriate, to occupy a certain position as long as it doesn't infract
on the Constitution.
On the Constitution.
Right.
But what he's doing now infracts on the Constitution. And worst of it, so far, not all, but so far, majority of those that are given those responsibilities are not discharging their so-called...
So you question their competence as well?
Yes, I did before.
You're right.
So and I still stand on it.
Right.
Because we haven't gotten to where, or there's no kind of ray of hope in the country under the leadership of those.
So let me be clear.
Now let me give you...
Yeah, okay.
For how many years? All we hear is endure, it will be okay, it will be okay, and it's 2 years. And now, the main purpose of government is clearly stated in Section 14. Security, welfare of its citizens, and of course, other things that follow in Section 14 of our Constitution. We are far from most of them, especially the issue of security and welfare of citizens. There's no amount of this hullabaloo that they are doing out there that if the president doesn't do something to make Nigerians feel and see, not to just hear and these figures turning out. No. There's this Hausa saying that if you tell a dog that there's party in their house at home, he would ask you to let me see it. And that means let him see that the party is going on by maybe getting bones or the meat or something. But when you say things are all right, and Nigerians are still out there yearning that things are tough, and you know things are tough. You yourself know that things.
Well, let's turn to that issue that you've now raised, which is the very, the issue of insecurity in the country. I mean, you mentioned, I was going to go to the issue of borrowing, but we're going to come to that in a minute because you brought up the issue of security. You've been raising the alarm, not only over the killings in Uromi, in Edo State, now you've got the massacre in Plateau State, but you've also expressed grave concern over the escalating militant attacks in your home state of Borno, and what appears to be the resurgence of Boko Haram and ISWAP there. I mean, just briefly tell us about your concerns.
Well, just day before yesterday, a captain was killed and a corporal in my local government in a town or village called Isge that have been resilient. They have a platoon there, and they have a battalion nearby. The Boko Haram came, killed the captain, but for the resilience of the people and the soldiers there, we lost 2. In Goshe, a local government, it's another village, in the last 5 days or so, also the Boko Haram attacked them from Amuda and killed 3 soldiers. In Wajirko recently, there's what they call FOB, Front Operation Base, was attacked and we lost 4 soldiers. That time too, Urgo, which is not in my local government but is in Borno State, was also attacked. Severally in other areas. Even yesterday or so in Kebbi, there's a case of Lakura killing about 12 people or so. I read it somewhere. There's this killing in Plateau again. Well, this part of insecurity. There was a killing in, that of IPOP, isolated, killings in the southeast is still going on. And I mean, you can see that Nigeria's security challenge is still there. In fact, when it goes down a little bit, it goes up again. And as I said, the main purpose of government is security, whatever you do in this country.
It must be very worrying,
So
particularly
worrying.
for you from Borno State, that I mean, every time we're told that, Boko Haram and ISWAP have essentially been contained, if not neutralized. But what we're seeing are these bursts of sporadic energy from them that seems to suggest that they're nowhere near being defeated.
No, not especially in Borno or Bay State. What we call the Bay State is Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe. As it is now, today, you can't go anywhere in Borno. You can't travel anywhere in Borno after 5 o'clock till morning, 8 in the morning. And it has been like that. But the only difference is that before, now, even after that 8 o'clock in the morning, you cannot travel freely without escort. But these days, there is an improvement that you can go somewhere, some routes without escort. But as I'm telling you now, some of the routes, especially from Maiduguri to Damboa, that you can you can reach there in 2 hours. You have now to at least travel 8 hours. In fact, that road that we used to take under escort, that is from Maiduguri to Damboa, then to Biu, is completely closed now because we have been losing lives there. And coupled with the fact that even the citizens are complacent, and then the security challenge is so much. We have been losing soldiers, we have been losing people.
So why do you think things have got worse there?
It's not that things have gotten worse, but they are still lingering. You can't say,
Right.
Yeah, it's not that it has gotten
So
worse.
there's a bit of a stalemate.
Yes, that is it.
Right.
I think that's the correct word to use. There's a kind of stalemate. The Nigerian army are doing their best under the circumstances that they are operating. As I'm telling you now, I don't know about last week. I don't know about last month. Our soldiers that sacrificed their life, some of them are yet to be even paid the 70,000 minimum wage. And their daily ration up to now, I don't know about last week because I am interested. I'm a Nigerian, I'm a senator. It's 1,500. You can imagine what 1,500 can do to somebody that you just post from Port Harcourt sometimes. I met a young man from Bayelsa, posted to Bama, and he's been paid 50,000 then when I met him. 50,000 naira.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, I mean, you used to be the chairman of the Committee on the Army, weren't you, at one stage? I mean, I'm wondering what you were doing there.
I was on their neck.
You have oversight.
I was on
capacity,
their
and
neck.
the Senate has oversight.
And, I'm not trying to exonerate myself
Yeah.
because we didn't get there anyway. But Buhari is alive. He knows how the pressure I did personally put on him, especially for him to approve the loan that we collected to procure the Tucano that helped.
Yeah, the Tucano jets.
Yeah, that changed the. But right now, the truth of the matter is that our Nigerian or armed forces generally are not well trained, are not equipped, are not motivated, and are not armed. If you don't do that, you don't get anywhere. I suggested at one time that if we can't do that in the shortest possible time, then one of the short-term solutions that the Chief of Defense staff came here to disagree with me, which is entitled to, is to engage the service of private military contractors, PMC. It's done all over. America, that is the greatest country in the world, they engage Blackwater, which is their non-contractors. The British Army do that. French do that. So with this problem that can be solved, and it's in 3 or 4 or 5 black spots, you can address it by, engaging private military contractors and ask them to fix it. They will fix it. And the Nigerian Army can engage itself in other things. But no, Christopher is my friend. We worked closely when I was chairman.
That's
Army.
Christopher Musa, the Chief of Defense Staff.
Yeah, very good guy.
Yeah, he's a very intelligent man.
Yeah, but they are the pride, they have, I think I look at it as kind of pride or something. What's wrong with engaging private contractors to solve the problem?
Well, you're in the Senate, and it is people like you and your colleagues who have to assess the situation. I mean, that's why you guys are elected to go there and then put pressure on the government or even change the law in order to make that mandatory, mandate the government to do that. But you mentioned loans. Yeah. About the Tucanos, which is that brings me to the other issue that you have raised, which is the very high borrowing by the Tinubu government that's taken place over the last 20 months or so. And to be fair to you, it's not just you. Several leading economists, chambers of commerce, etc., have also expressed concern over the rising debt. How serious a situation does this look like from your point of view as a senator? How much of a national crisis is it?
Well, let me first of all say that I'm not against borrowing. Even the greatest countries in the world, America, Japan, China, all are big borrowers. But they borrow for physical, tangible, and accountable projects that you spread and pay over time. But my worry is not even in the borrowing, it's what you borrow for. Let me give you quickly a rundown of what I checked. You see, in June 2023, $500 million was borrowed for women program to scale up what they call NPWPSC. Can you see that? Can Nigerians see it? Where are the women? Then on June 23rd, the same day, $800 million was borrowed to cushion the impact of high petrol prices after fuel subsidy removal. How? Where? Then, on September 23rd, 2003, under the same government, $700 million was borrowed again for Adolescent Girls Initiative for Learning and Empowerment. Then, on December 23rd, the same thing, $750 million borrowed through what they call renewable energy scale-up. Then, June 2024, $1.5 billion was borrowed to support Nigeria's reform for economic stabilization to enable transformation.
That one sounds very spurious, I have to be honest.
Okay, you see? Then in June 24th, $750 million again was borrowed for immediate financial and technical support for efforts to stabilize economy and to scale up support to the poor and most economically at risk. Then, on September...
Well, they would argue, that particular one, that they've been making payments to a lot of poor people.
Where are the poor people?
Some of their cash transfers and things like that.
Look, whenever you're doing something, if it is true, somebody will come out to say thank you.
But are these loans, are they approved by the National Assembly? I mean, do they pass through your Senate for
No,
approval?
what passes through the Senate so far as this is these are itemized.
Right, the bulk of it passes
No, the bulk,
through.
you don't pass the bulk, you pass the itemized. If, for example,
Right.
before...
So were all these itemized
No,
things approved?
not to my
so you're saying they're extra?
Not to my knowledge, not to my knowledge.
Because
not
I know
extra. Because
that...
such amount, there was the medium-term expenditure framework.
Right.
It's something that they bring and we look at and maybe approve it, but that is not to say it's a blanket.
So you're saying
approval.
these things are have bypassed the National Assembly?
That is it. So far,
The reason I say that is that I know that in November 2024, the Senate approved like, I don't know, 1.7 trillion naira or something to that effect that the government had requested, which is like several...
no, it's not. Charles, get it clear. Before you pass the budget annually, there's the midterm expenditure framework
Right.
that must come before the National Assembly for approval. These are the things that the government is anticipating to spend, but that is not to say that even if it is approved, it's a blanket approval. No.
Right.
Every item, every of this
must be accounted.
Yes,
Right.
no, because you need to ask questions. How are you going to do that? How is it important? And when is the money? What are the terms? How is, all these things are supposed to be discussed first before you engage in it. That is the National Assembly approval. But as I said, when you total these borrowings, the figure I got here is about $9.45 billion, which translates to about 13 trillion. And as I said, I mentioned most of them. These are items that are either intangible, those items are not, it has nothing to do with infrastructure. I would have supported, for example, that the country is borrowing even more than that to build our infrastructures, to build railway,
Right.
to build our
But you're
roads.
saying that these things that you're mentioning,
Yes.
they're not tangible things
They are not
that
tangible
you can
things
hold on
that you can hold on to.
Right.
And these are things that you pay in the next 40, 50 years.
Yeah,
that
but you-
time we are gone, our children will... Are you going to tell my child, am I going to tell my child or grandchildren that we borrow 700 million and we are paying in 20, 30 years for adolescent girls initiative?
Yeah, but you have to remember something, and that is the fact that human capital is an essential, in fact, probably some would argue the most essential part of development. That
That's
if you
right.
don't develop
But-
human
but
capital,
but let me tell you.
then you're not actually going to go anywhere.
Nigeria, fortunately, have enough human capital that we need to tap in. Remember, Charles, including yourself, you only don't provide service in Nigeria, but you also go out.
You're always pointing me. I don't understand.
No, but
I'm going
because
to
you are
have to
the,
go after
the
you
closest
personally
person
then.
to me. You are serving in Nigeria as one of the best journalists, and because of your performance, you are working with the BBC, isn't it? Or you go part-time there to provide service with other organizations. We have the human capital or human resources, so to say. It's just to harness it.
Let me ask you this. Do you believe that you are acting in accordance with your best principles as a senator and a member of the ruling party by these whistleblowing actions that you're taking, and that you are preserving the rule of law in Nigeria?
Yeah, right. But let me correct that. You see, I'm a bona fide member of APC. In fact, one of those that signed onto the initial formation of APC. And Nigeria is my country. And as I said, I don't have any other country.
Well, you've made that point emphatically, and I always get worried when you start going in that direction.
Because I promise
don't know
not
what
to
you're going-
touch you again.
But let me ask you, because we're running out of time. Time has been galloping ahead. I mean, how does all this, because I remember, I noticed you mentioned somewhere about 2027. Does all this play into 2027?
I hear them talking about 2027 all the time, but for me, I'm not. I'm talking about today and at most tomorrow. I'm 65. I thank God for my life. all these people shouting about 2027, they don't believe in God. Because 2027 is a year ahead. And we don't know whether Ndume is going to be alive then or even the president. And they are busy shouting about 2027.
Yeah,
they
but
have
you have
not
to plan
finished.
ahead.
Wait now, we have not finished with the mandate. We are just 2 years. In fact, until next month, the president is not 2 years old. And you are talking about 2027. Let him finish. By the time the president is performing very well and Nigerians are happy, nobody will come and start talking about competing with Mr. President. It will be automatic. But as it is now, they keep on talking nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Because, as I said, 3 things will determine whether this government is going to succeed or not. 1 is security. 2 is welfare of its citizens. And 3, that is related to the welfare, is the economy itself. If it is not performing, then you can go and be talking nonsense. It will not work.
Let me ask you a final question. Why does it appear to be only you, of the many senators in the National Assembly, including members of the opposition, who draws attention to these alleged excesses? Does that suggest that all the others are complicit in these violations?
No, that is not. I'm Sen Ali Ndume. God created me differently, and I'm going to account for my actions. If everything is to go the way I want, there would have been only one person in the Senate, and that's me. But that is not. So we have 109 of us, different senatorial districts, different makeup. God does not create 2 persons at a time. So I cannot speak, and I cannot say my colleagues, but let me tell you, I have the support of the people, including my colleagues. The only difference is that they can't come out and take the bullet the way I do.
They don't have the guts.
They don't have, not that they don't have the guts, but they're always thinking that something will come. No, not me.
On that note, I have to say that the intrepid Senator Ali Ndume, it's always a pleasure having you here.
Welcome to Shamrasi News